Hello, Venture Youth. My name is Emma, and I'm just here to simply welcome you to Venture Youth right now. Before we get started, I have a couple announcements, and I actually have today's challenge for you. So first of all, if you are watching this, congrats, you hit the first spot, or the first step kind of in what we're all about here. So, but that second step is make sure you're following our Instagram. It's at Venture Youth on 59, because we are going to be posting updates, our challenges. We are actually in the middle of kind of planning some cool things that we want you guys to be a part of. So you will see all of that on our Instagram page. And kind of along those lines, that kind of goes with the challenge today. So if you don't know, or you're not following that Instagram account, you won't know, but we're doing a challenge with our students, and it's the freshmen against the sophomores against the upperclassmen. And what we're doing is students are posting, you guys are supposed to post onto your story things that we challenge you to post. So today's challenge for the next 24 hours, so until Monday at 5 o'clock, you are able to post this. And what we actually want you to do is, if you're watching this on a computer or if you broadcast it on your TV, is to take a picture of that and put that on your story, and make sure you tag at Venture Youth on 59. And if not, then what we want you to do is at some point kind of screenshot this viewing that you're watching the YouTube, that you're watching on YouTube. It does not have to be of my face. You definitely don't have to do that. You can definitely do that on Anna Mae's face. But we just want to challenge you, so if you're not watching it on something else, if you're on your phone, go ahead and screenshot that, post that to your story, and just tag us. You don't have to say anything else. I don't think posting on your story is that you don't have that much pressure. It's only on there for 24 hours. And so that's for today's challenge. And for every student that posts that, you are going to earn 40 points for your team. And that's 40 points. So definitely go ahead and do that. And then the last announcement that I have for you guys is kind of just simply that we are here for you. So I know you students got some tough news this week that you are not going back to school the rest of the year. That's pretty crazy. And we just want you to know that we care for you 100%. We are supporting you. And I think that many students don't actually know this, but the Venture Youth team, your small group leaders, Eric, Anna, we're all on our knees every day praying for you students. And we just want you to know that we are here for you. And then especially for you seniors, we are truly heartbroken for you. I know that for a lot of you, you did not expect your last day to be your last day. And we are just here for you if you need anything. And we are actually planning how we can specifically and especially honor you seniors. And we just want you to know that, and know that we are here for you and all the way. And so with that being said, we're gonna kick off our message tonight. Hopefully we can bring a smile to your face this week. Hopefully we can bring some light into your life tonight if you watch this message. And actually, Anna Mae Martin is speaking tonight. Woo, woo. That was kind of cringy, but I'm just gonna keep going. And so Anna Mae is speaking tonight. She's kicking off the first week of our Easter series. So we are so excited to see what she brings for the word. And with that being said, I'm just going to pray really quick. So, dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you for every student, for every person that is watching this video right now. Lord, I pray that Anna's voice can be your voice, Anna's words can be your words, and that you can just guide her through this message, Lord, and that she can just bring to these students what they need to hear right now. And Lord, something a little different that I want to pray to you tonight is that, Lord, I just pray for the students that we are not reaching right now. Lord, I pray for those friends, for the students that are popping into our own students' minds right now, Lord. I pray for them, Lord, and I pray that they can somehow find this light, find your word, Lord. And I just pray that you can guide them to you. I pray that, Lord, somebody out there, one of our students can be a part of that, Lord, can be a part of bringing other students who don't know you to you. And Lord, I can pray that this message might be one of those ways, and this might be one of those bridges. And so I just pray that you have your hand on Anna Mae tonight, and I just pray that you guide her through this. In Jesus' name, amen.
Fear can follow us most of our lives. When we're little, we're afraid of monsters under the bed, being in the dark, missing out on fun. And then we get older and it changes a little bit, and it's the fear that we're not going to pass our classes, or fear of getting rejected by a friend. Maybe it's a fear that we're not going to be good enough. It can change into like a fear of not fitting in, or a fear for our health of our relationships, the health of people around us. A fear that maybe we won't amount to anything, that we won't do anything significant. But ultimately, a single fear that can often encompass all of our fears is a fear of death. And maybe you're thinking, wow, I mean, it's a stretch. It's a little bit of a stretch. But when I say death, what I really mean is the fear of the end of something. So welcome to our new series, Happy Easter. Started out really good so far, and really, this is really cool because it talks about the victory of Jesus. What does Easter mean? And the first point that we're settling on is that Easter means that fear isn't final. Fear isn't final. So just to kind of relate this to Easter, probably about 3 years ago, I was asked to be an Easter bunny for like a kid's photo shoot, right? And it was so interesting because I am in this full bunny costume and I have this giant rabbit head on top of my head. And some of the kids were so excited, right? Like they wanted a picture with the Easter bunny, and some of them were straight up terrified. And why wouldn't you be? This giant rabbit person, is just sitting there and looking at you with unblinking eyes, because there was these giant bunny eyes on top of my head. And what was really interesting about this event is some kids were excited, some kids were really scared. I even had this kid who was normally terrified of me in real life, but loved the Easter bunny, so it was the only time he actually wanted to hang out with me. But really, the most terrified person in that room was actually me. I was the most terrified person. And I wasn't terrified of the small children, just to clarify. I was not terrified of the small children, but it was right at the beginning of my, really intense struggle with anxiety. And I had this deep kind of claustrophobia that would just overtake me at a moment's notice. And having this confining Easter bunny head on my head freaked me out. And there was this, but I was like, I'm going to do it for the children, right? And so there was this moment where the people who were my Easter bunny escorts, because my vision was poor, I could run into a wall at any moment, and they asked if I wanted to take a break, take off the bunny head, breathe, whatever. And we had done one before, but at that point I told them no. And I didn't tell them why, but in my head I thought, if I take off this bunny mask right now, I am never putting this sucker back on. So we have to push through to get to the end of this experience. And it was just, for me, really what I was afraid of, because, my fear of claustrophobia, confined spaces, I was afraid I wasn't going to breathe, and I wasn't going to be able to breathe through it. My heart was going to freak out, and I was just going to die in an Easter bunny costume. Can you imagine that as an obituary? Dies as Easter bunny. Tragic. But I was pretty intensely wrecked by that experience. And that's kind of a funny story now, because I'm over it. I can wear Easter bunny costumes like nobody's business. But fear can greatly impact our lives. And it really did. It greatly impacted my life. Impacted my life from when I was very small to all through growing up, school, coming out of school. And fear can greatly impact our lives. It can impact our decisions. It can impact the way that we react and engage with other people. Fear can even impact our motivation to go forward into the future. Like, we can stagnate and we can just kind of stay where we are because we're afraid of what's going to come after the end. Because we are often afraid of the end of something. And maybe that end is, we're afraid to be ourselves, because if people find out who we are, then it will end our friendships. Or maybe we are afraid of this end that will come when people find out our deepest secrets. And maybe those secrets are things that we actually really need to tell somebody, or maybe they're just things that we think are weird quirks, and we're like, if somebody finds this out about me, our relationship is over, Or maybe it's, especially during this time, college, looking forward to that future and thinking, man, what happens when now ends? What happens when this present experience ends? And what's after that? So it's just like this fear that kind of wraps around us, and we're not really sure what to do with it. And sometimes we give fear the final say in our lives. We can do that. We give fear the final say in our lives. And we shouldn't have to. We shouldn't give fear the final say. And here's why. Because of Easter. And this was actually something Paul, who was this guy that followed Jesus, understood. Because, Paul really had a lot of things to be afraid of. He was being imprisoned all the time. He was getting beat up. He got in a shipwreck once. He got bit by a venomous snake. And ultimately, he was killed for his faith. But Paul was not afraid. He pushed forward. He went after Jesus and spreading the message of Jesus. And here's why. And we actually see it in one of his letters to the church of Corinth. And he says this: death is swallowed up in victory. O death, where is your victory? O death, where is your sting? Because here's what Paul understood. Before Jesus came on the scene, death had the final say. I mean, the consequence of sin was a physical death. It's an emotional death. It's a spiritual death. It is just death. It is the end. That is the consequence of our sin. And Jesus came in, and when Jesus came in, he comes into this world that is afraid of death. I mean, even people who are following God, they have to follow this very strict justice system because sin so wrecks our lives in the spiritual plane of the earth that all they had to look forward to was death, and they were constantly afraid of death and what's going to happen when it ends and what comes after death. And if I don't do this right, if I don't follow these laws just right, if I don't sacrifice all of my flocks and my birds, death will find me. And then Jesus comes, and he dies, which is so interesting that he dies to defeat death. He dies, he raises from the dead, and he brings freedom to our lives and victory over death. I mean, really, when you think about Easter, death lost to Jesus. Death lost to Jesus. And so what does that tell us about our fear? Because, maybe you're sitting there and I'm like, man, I'm afraid I'm not going to get good grades. What does that possibly have to do with Jesus overcoming death? Well, here's where I want you to land on this here today. So if Jesus can defeat death, he can defeat what you are afraid of. If Jesus can defeat death, he can defeat what you are afraid of. And that fear that's in our lives, that we give the final say, on our relationships, on our decisions, on our future, that doesn't have to be the case. Because the power of Jesus, the Jesus who defeated death, is in us. And if the power of Jesus is in us, then really, There is nothing to be afraid of. Because he has already given us victory, and he has already given us freedom over death. Now, that's not to say that nothing bad will ever happen. Because, we live in a world where bad things happen, and sin has corrupted a lot. But if Jesus is in our lives, and the power of Jesus is in our lives, a Jesus who defeated death, then we really don't have anything to be afraid of. And so next steps, here's what I want you to think about. Number 1, ask yourself this question. What is the fear in your life holding you back from? Is it holding you back from fulfilling a dream? Is it holding you back from a relationship? Is it holding you back from making a change in your life? Is it holding you back from maybe being open in your small group about something you've really been struggling with? What is fear holding you back from? So that's number 1. Number 2, what is your next step? What is the next step for you to take so that fear no longer has a final say in your life? Maybe that next step is, again, maybe it's telling somebody about something that you're afraid of. Maybe it's getting an accountability partner where you're like, man, can you just remind me that Jesus exists and I don't have to fear this? Or maybe it's looking at this verse in the Bible, "Oh, death, where's your victory?" and putting it on your wall or putting it on your phone and just looking at that and reminding yourself, listen, if death lost to Jesus, what I'm afraid of will lose to Jesus too. So think about that. What is fear holding you back from? And what is your next step? And then I just want you to remember this. Easter, because we're going into Easter. Easter means that fear isn't final. It's not final in your life. It's not the final say in your relationships or your future. It's not final. So, we are going to go into your small groups after this. If you are in high school, then I want you to jump on Google Hangouts and get with your group and, talk about what are your fears that you're facing in your life. If you're in middle school, get with your family. Your parents are great people to talk to. Who is in your life that you can connect with? Think about that. So, as we close out before we get into small groups, I just want to pray with you. God, I just thank you for every student really, anywhere. And I thank you that we have students here who are committed to hearing about you, who are committed to getting together, even in this very difficult time, and still connecting. And God, I ask that you will really give us, that you'll give everybody who is watching this or listening the courage to take steps against fear. Because we don't have to be bound to that or enslaved by it anymore. It doesn't have to have the final say in our lives. And God, I just ask that you bring that courage, that you make us brave. And just that your Spirit will pour out here today. In Christ's name, amen. So, get in your groups. And happy almost Easter from me to you. And then final thing. I got you a piece of candy. There you go. That's yours. And then this one is mine. Bye.